Hey everyone, we are in the most exciting and busiest time of the garden season when I start planting everything up. So we are, I like to say we're for sure past any chance of frost, but you never really know. I think I feel safe about like mid-July that we're not going to get any more snow here. But seriously, May is the busiest in terms of getting everything out and planted. And this, I think, is this the first? I think this is the first video of planting out my warm season annual. So I'm going to fill these 3 beds behind me, and I'm going to show you first how I kind of refresh the soil. I've done 2 of the side beds already. I'm going to do this center one with you. Talk about some of the things I'm going to do differently from last year. And then, yeah, we're getting these planted, and they're going to be that way for the rest of the season unless something dies and I need to replace it. So let me give you a quick look at these 3 beds, and then I'll go through everything I'm going to plant. These are the 3 beds we are going to be planting up. These are the beds from Charming Bench Company. They are shorter. I think they only come to about 17 inches tall. And I like to grow flowers, at least in the back row, that just peek over this wall so that people that live over there are like, oh my gosh, is there a garden up there? So I kind of like it so that people do know there is something growing up here. But anyways, so I already refreshed the beds on the end. And yes, I did put in a cosmos there already because they were not happy in their smaller pellets anymore, and I didn't feel like potting them up into a nursery pot for just a couple days. So I went ahead and just plopped those into the corners a few days ago. I also refreshed the soil, like I said, in those beds. So I'll show you what I do in the center one, and then my overall design plan, not that it's that complicated, scooching back without falling over anything, is that the beds on the end are going to be planted similarly, but like mirror image. So like I said, the cosmos is in that back left corner, it's in this back right corner. Whatever I plant in the center will be in the center. Whatever I plant on the inside here will be on the inside here, and I'll just flip flop so that when you're looking at it, it kind of looks like, I don't know, going all the same this way, this will be all the same going the same back. So like from the center out, it'll be mirror image. The bed in the middle is going to have different plants than the ones on the end, and it'll just be a mirror image split down of itself. So 2 the same back there, 2 the same there, 2 the same in the middle. That is my plan. Now, I love Excel for planning basically anything in life, and the garden is no different. So I've put a few videos together in the past, I know, showing my seed starting schedule doc. I will link that down below. And then from that video, you can also get your own free link to download a version for yourself. But I don't just use that to figure out when I'm starting my seeds. I also use it a lot when I'm planting or planning out my garden so that I can get things in order of color and height. Those are the 2, I would say, main factors. I do look at spacing and then kind of ignore it, but I'll show you on the screen here what I've done. Basically, so I knew for the back beds, I wanted to have a color scheme, and really for this whole garden, of purples, pinks, and oranges, but I'm sure a few other colors are gonna sneak their way in here, but that is my plan for these 3 beds. So what I did is I basically copied and pasted the information from the main tab of all of my flowers, of the ones I knew I wanted back here. And I kind of have an idea when I'm starting my seeds what I want where. And then I highlighted the name of the plant in the color that it is, just so it's a quick, easy visual for me to see, okay, that's a pink one, that's an orange one, that's a purple one. Instead of having to look at a column that says the color, I can just visually see the color. And then I also sorted descending by height. That way I can look at here because you want your tallest plants in the back and then shorter and shorter as you're going forward. Now the tallest plants that I'm planting back here, which I showed you are already in the beds, is my cosmos. Those will get to 50 inches. Then it kind of goes down to the gomphrena, which are the shortest at 28 inches. So gomphrena will be towards the front. Anything else taller will be towards the back. And I basically try to, like if I have a pink here, I try to put an orange next to it. I don't want 2 of the same color right next to each other. Even though a lot of these shades, like even 2 of the pink flowers will be different shades of pink, but I do try to get a good layout of my oranges, my purples, and my pinks. So I'll go through kind of my plan. Well, I'm trying to think if I should lay things out first. Actually, I will go through everything that I'm going to plant in here first. I will put images of the plants because right now all I have are these seedlings, so you can't really see what the finished plant looks like. But I'll put those on the screen so you can get an idea. So I have my cosmos, which is the cupcake blush cosmos that I grew last year. I have next my king size apricot or apricot, I say apricot, asters. I have my Bonita Shell Pink aster, and I'm also reading this in their order of height descending. I have the Hesaster Hagen Light Blue asters, Tower Chamois aster, Lady Coral Lavender aster. Then I have my status, so I go into my QIS Apricot status, Seeker Pastel Blue status, Seeker Rose Shades status. Then I go into my 3 Gomphrena, Gomphrena Lavender Lady, Gomphrena QIS Salmon, and Gomphrena QIS Rose. And then what's not on this list is Celosia that I am going to add to the bed, and this is from Floret. So I was looking for something, I wanted something slightly taller than the asters, and this is just a couple inches taller. I think this comes in at like 42 maximum. They might stay a bit smaller in my containers, but I got precious metal zinnias that I ordered from Floret that I've started them. We will be planting them soon. And then someone else that I'm friends with via Instagram, they got Celosia. So we swapped some seeds, and I'm like 90% sure what she sent me was the Celosia Rose Gold. Actually, I think I just labeled it Celosia because I was like, well, I'm only growing one variety. Yeah, just says Celosia. Write the full name of the plant on the labels. But I'm pretty sure it's Rose Gold, which will fit into my color scheme. So with that, I will lay everything out in the beds and then walk through it with you. And then we'll get to planting. And the planting should be fairly quick and easy. So when I say I'm refreshing the beds, basically what I mean is I'm just adding some more nutrients back into the soil that's been in here. So I originally filled these in the fall of 2022, or at least one of them I did. So things were growing in here 2023. I had spring bulbs in here as well this past spring. A lot rotted, so I'll probably find some rotted bulbs in here when I dig to put these plants in. But there's been a lot of plants in here that have used up the nutrients. Now, I don't take all the soil out because I don't know where it would go. That would be pretty much impossible on a rooftop deck. And I've been doing this same method since 2020 when we moved in, and my plants have been happy so far. So I'm going to keep doing it until they are no longer happy. But essentially, I'll take out some of like the top layer, the first few inches. I will add in perlite just for drainage because my soil tends to get really compact, and the issue I deal with the most is root rot from too much water, not enough oxygen in the soil for the roots. So I add perlite for drainage. I will say don't worry about that as much in the heat of the summer because the water evaporates so quickly, but definitely in the spring and fall that's more of an issue. And then I will add in compost as well. I'm not really tied to a certain brand of compost. I just get whatever is currently available at a local garden center. I've never come across a compost I didn't like. I have come across some potting soils I didn't like, but never a compost yet. That's really just all going to stay in the first top inches of soil. The roots on my annuals don't really go down that far, so like maybe this is where the soil kind of ends, and I never have to dig down that far to pull up my plants. Perennials, a little bit of a different story, but this I'm really just focusing on the top few inches. So I will take some sort of large container, and I will just scrape the soil into said container. Then I'm going to add in some perlite, and this is definitely a do what I say, not as I do situation, because I should be putting on a mask because the perlite, I don't know if it's like the powder. Hey, there's another rotted bulb. I don't know if it's like the powder in it, but there is stuff that kind of flies up and you can inhale it. I do have a mask, but it's downstairs, and one of the things with gardening on a rooftop deck is if something's on a different floor, I usually don't take the time to go get it. So I'm just going to put in a little bit of perlite. And when I say a little bit, I mean a hefty amount. I don't measure anything. I'm not, baking a cake here. I will be more careful with measuring for fertilizer than with something like this, but I'm just scratching this in, and then if I feel like I need more, I will add more. In my garden, again, there really isn't, unless I just put only perlite, in a raised bed, there really isn't, oh hey, more bulbs. There really isn't a maximum, like too much perlite that I've ever come across. It's always been, too little, not enough drainage. So I'm just mixing this in here, pulling out the sad reminders of my rotted bulbs. And honestly, I don't have to remove the rotted bulbs, they'll just decompose, but if I find them, I might as well pull them out. And I don't know if you can tell because you are just watching, but I can tell by scraping through here that another bulb, ew, that one's like really slimy. Good thing I'm wearing gloves. But I can tell by scratching through here that as I'm getting more of the perlite into the mix, that it's much easier, feels much fluffier to move around. So I'd say I'm going down here about maybe 5 inches deep, because again, my annual roots don't go very far. All right, I think that's good there. Then I'm gonna grab compost and put an inch thick layer on top. Or since this is the end of the last bag of this compost, I need to go get more. It'll be however much is left in here. And then this, I typically don't go down quite as deep as I do with the perlite, but I just mix it around here into the top few inches. All right, I think we are looking good to add plants. Everything is laid out, and I did have to make a slight adjustment because I was going to plant 2 lady coral lavender asters, but only one of the 6 I started actually germinated. That was the issue with all my kind of second year China aster seeds. First year seeds did great. So starting in this bed, there's 3 rows. In the back is 3, then 2 in the center, then 3 in the front. So back left is the Cupcakes Blush Cosmos. Then we have the Apricot Aster in the back middle, and the Celosia on the far right. Then I have the Hesaster, Blue Aster in the middle left. And then I switched it up to, because this is where the Lady Coral Lavender was going to go, the Tower Chamois Aster. Then I have Gomphrena Rose on the front left, Apricot Status in the center, Gomphrena Salmon in the front right. So then that again is the same as this bed, just mirror image. In the center bed here, I did Bonita Shell Pink Aster, back left, back right, Lady Coral Lavender in the center. I did 2 of Blue Status in the middle. Then I did on each side of the front row is Gomphrena Lavender, and then Rose Status in the center front, because again, this one's a mirror image, just splitting it down the center. So that is everything that I have here. So now we just go ahead and get these planted. I did forget, I'm going to add in some slow release plant food as well. I have this left over from last year. I think all brands I've used have worked. I will also do a liquid fertilizer throughout the season, but this is what I like to start with. So I'm just going to sprinkle the slow release around, and then as I dig the holes, some will fall into the holes, and then I'll just scratch in the rest. This is the most exciting part of actually getting things planted. Let's make sure I am center. So center would be right there. Tuck you in. I am leaving on these paper wrappings of the peat pellets. You can take them off. I leave them on. Sometimes they break down completely, sometimes they don't, but I've never had an issue with them inhibiting the growth of anything that I've planted. Some of the things I'm doing different this year is I am putting less plants in here. I don't know if it looks like that to you, but I am doing fewer plants in general, and I'm also not doing, I think last year I did petunias over the edge, but I realized that so I put pots in front of these beds, and because of that, you don't actually see what's hanging over. So it was kind of a waste, like they just got lost behind the pots, and that, wait for that noise, and that was just more space that was being taken up by a plant you couldn't even really see. So what I'm doing is I'm starting with the center and then just kind of placing them where I want, making sure that as far as like left and right, they're kind of spaced out evenly, just because for me that's what I prefer. So this one was in the middle of the second board, middle of the second board, But you don't I mean, not everything has to be even. For me, I just like having a little bit, well, I say I like having a little bit of a pattern, but then my front deck is definitely not like that. So, but this, I do like having just a little bit more order in my garden back here. Let's see, so center, be about here between those two. And then center here, about here. So that is one bed down. Same thing here, starting with the center line of the bed. So that is all lined up. I find it's easiest to start with whatever's in the center and then work to space everything else out around it. Now I will say, some of these plants are new. I'm like interested to see how full, I grew status last year, I didn't give it enough space, but I'm interested to see how full those get. If they don't kind of look the way I want them to, I can always remove them and like swap things around. I often do that fairly regularly in my container garden, especially as things die later in the season. Just like switching things from one, like maybe I have a single pot of something and then that space opens up in my raised bed. I'll just go ahead and plop what was in that single pot and move it into my raised bed. Center bed done. And this is the last one here. Again, mirror image of the one on the other end. Finding the center of the two beds here. Planting that. And let's line you up about here. You over here. There are a lot of helicopters out today. I just realized I didn't sprinkle the fertilizer in these other two beds. I will do that after I get things planted and just scratch it in. I swear the granular fertilizer, for some reason, is always the hardest for me to remember. All right, all done. Well, not all done. Sprinkling this in, so just around there. And then just scratching that into the soil. So those are my beds all planted up. I'm really excited. I can't believe it's already here that I'm getting my plants outside for the summer. So I'm very excited. I would normally water these in, but we're getting rain tomorrow morning. It's the evening right now. Again, I worry about too much water at this time of year, and I think we have rain for the next couple days. So I'm not gonna water these in right now. I'm just gonna leave them be. I will nervously check on them for the first few days, but I do find that once, I mean, some of these are already pretty large, maybe larger than I should have let them go inside, but I do find that once they get outside, they explode in growth now that they have more space. I do still have a bunch of extra plants. I'll hang on to them as I start planting everything up, see where I have holes to fill, and I think that's it for this video. So let me know if you have any questions. Again, I will link the video down to my seed starting doc, which I then use to help me plan my actual designs in my garden, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.